Hello everybody, today we're lucky enough to be joined by Laura Martin, who is a fashion editor. Laura, thanks so much for joining us today, really appreciate it.
Very welcome, hello guys.
And can you tell us a bit about yourself and your career, please?
I can indeed. It could take a while.
Good. I've got plenty of time.
I started off actually in the buying industry, believe it or not. Sorry, I've got a new notification on my phone. In the buying industry, we'll start from London College of Fashion. I did a year's foundation there. Then I went into buying. I'm going to be really quick with this one. I did about how many years? Oh God, about 6-7 years in the buying industry. Then changed career at the age of 31 to styling, and assisting a fashion stylist. Like, he was freelance, but he did a lot of work for OK and Hello magazine. And then I just happened to be in the right place at the right time, and I was doing a lot for Company magazine at that point and Cosmo. And I was kind of in the right place at the right time, got the job there. Mm-hmm. And before that I was doing a lot I've done stuff for InStyle, that's now not here anymore, Sunday Times Style. I assisted Natalie Hartley, who's quite well known in the industry, but that's kind of where I started out at, like, I suppose 24, assisting all of these guys, and then actually getting a final job and actually doing it properly at like 30, 27, 29, 30. I can't remember, I'm that old. But yeah, and then I was at Company for 6 years, I think, really 6 years, and then became properly freelance 2014, and I've been kind of off and on covering maternity at Look magazine for a year, doing other maternities at Weekly. So I've got a vast amount of experience, I guess, through monthlies, weeklies, but mainly on print editorials. But I was lucky enough to actually be one of the first magazines that actually did deal with like the whole social media side of stuff. They were one of the first magazines to actually do a live made magazine from the Google offices. Mm-hmm. I forgot about that. So that's kind of me in a nutshell. And now I'm kind of doing a little bit of same thing, like commercial work, editorial where I can get it. But mainly I'm now probably doing more commercial brands and a little bit of radio on the side, and trying to just broaden the horizons, I guess.
You mentioned there that you started off in buying. Kind of what kind of buying were you doing?
It was kind of design product development. So it was a lot of, whatever you see the finished garment in a shop, I would be one of the ones that would fit that garment. I would pick colours, I would pick dips, I would do everything involved with that one particular garment in the shop. I say that's more product development. And then I went into another shop that probably no one's ever heard of because it's gone now, Mark 1. Does anybody remember Mark 1? I think we do. One of our Saturday probably club night rounds. I was at Mark 1 doing buying for them, which was a totally different kind of buying, which was more that was money, budgets, buys, how many you bought into. So like I've got a vast amount of experience on that side as well. So that's taught me a lot about budgets and money and financial side. And I'm not really a technical money person, but yeah, I think everything that I've learned I've used over the years as well. But yeah, that also went Mark 1, so I was made redundant there. And then I went traveling when I was 22 and came back into it, did it a bit for a while, and then decided I'm going to do what I wanted to do at 16, which was magazines.
Yeah.
So
when you came back and you kind of crossed over from buying to doing more kind of editorial and styling, did you intern in that time?
I did intern, and I'd worked 4 jobs at the same time as well. I was just saying that to somebody else today, actually. I interned with Elle, that's my interns at Sunday Times Style, but I also did extra work on the side. I think I worked in a tanning shop on the side, and I also worked on the shop floor. So actually, I actually started off on shop floor when I was 16 at Arcadia, and continued doing that for a little bit while I was interning, Saturday jobs and all of that. So yeah, I did intern basically probably I interned with the fashion stylist for a year without getting paid, really. And I did, luckily enough, get paid for doing Sunday Times Style and Elle, and you do at that point, but you just do it because you love doing what you do, and you get so much chance to do things that you wouldn't normally do. It's not always about just being that person that's packing up clothes in a courier service. And we'll probably get onto that later anyway. If you've never done interning, you're not going to know what I'm talking about right now, but yeah. Yes.
Do you think there's any kind of really valuable skills that you learned whilst you were interning that you still utilize now?
Yes. I wrote my notes on this. I'm just getting my notes, but no, for me, interning has always been being open to learning new things, and always be open with any person that you're working with, because we're all the same, really. We're all learning from each other, and I take that everywhere I go, because I don't know what I'm doing all the time. Even now, I don't know what I'm doing all the time. If I'm doing a shoot, I don't know what I'm doing all the time, but there's somebody that's, you know, you can work with cats, kids, dogs, whatever. It could be like, I'm digressing now. I remember when I did a shoot for a jewelry brand, I won't say who it was or who it was through, but it was the most weirdest experience ever, because we had a cat and dog on shoot. The dog was amazing, but the cat had been in Vogue per se, apparently, but they made the cat asleep. They injected it to actually behave on set, and I was like, are you for real? You're saying I don't know, but it just went. It's a first and last experience with animals, let's put it that way, because I don't know how I felt about that after, but it was everything. I had to do set, I had to do the animals, I just was like, anyway, my point was, going back to interning, you have to be willing and open to learn new skills, and also always think ahead. Always have a solution rather than being a problem about something. If you can't do something, also ask a question. If you don't understand something, ask a question. If you don't know and you're new to interning, always ask questions, because it looks like you're interested in doing what you're doing. It's quite common sense, and it's always about being a team player as well. I always found that you work with so many different people interning, from like the editor to another assistant, and everybody's got different ways of working. From monthlies, weeklies, they're all different in how they produce a magazine, and online is very different to how you produce a magazine. So I just think when you are doing interning, you're like that, aren't you? You do the best thing you can. You're that person that everybody wants to go to, and you're like, yes, she'll get it done, she's organized, she's this, she's that. So yeah, I've always been open, and I'll always ask questions, and I just think you go in with you've got knowledge, but somebody else has got knowledge, and it's about working together as a team, always. Did that answer the question?
Yeah. It's
sorry,
I'm like, and you know, just wanting to learn, I think. And I think the important thing is that actually, like you said, those attitudes to work, it doesn't stop. Like, I do that now, and it doesn't mean that when you stop interning you have to like stop trying and stop like kind of learning.
Absolutely.
And stop being like willing to be a team player. Like that carries on. So
it carries on in this life, in next life, in your working life, whenever you get to the point, because you're always going to be learning something new, no matter where you are or what you're doing. You have to be able to have that skill. And also listening is a skill that a lot of people don't really have. I think it's quite, you know, don't listen to answer, listen to actually, always people think when they're listening, they're just listening to answer, they're not actually listening to the person speaking or who's teaching them, or like, it's a very important skill. But also just be yourself as well. You're there to do, you know, that's the thing I always say. You just got to be yourself, and just be that person that is willing and able and wanting to be there. Because you can always tell when someone doesn't want to be there, because I've been on the other side of interns, and it
doesn't make you want to help them, does it? Like, well, obviously with like students now, and even when I have interns now, the ones who are like willing to learn, like I'll bend over backwards to kind of help those like interns, and because you want to give them opportunities, but they've got to have hunger for it, you know.
And also they I think there's a bit of a thing where some people don't want to work. I mean, I've always had a work ethic. you work really hard, but I actually believe that you don't have to work hard, but you just have to have a certain work ethic where you're organized, you're more organized than the person you're working for. You have to be their eyes and ears in a way that you think ahead of them. As I say, you're always the solution, not the problem. But I think a lot of, I don't know if it's the same now in kids and interning, that they don't want to do the work and they don't want to put the work in, and there's always an answer for everything. And I think just sit back and listen from who you're learning from, and they can learn from you as well. It's not always one way. I always believe that we can learn from our interns as well.
Definitely. I shouldn't speak with things all the time.
Yeah. And having met some of your students, like, it was quite an eye-opener, because we did the live podcast, didn't we?
Yeah.
So it's quite an eye-opener for me on that one, and just talking to some of them afterwards and realising that there's quite a bit of an internal struggle with some of them as well, which is hard, and they've got a lot thrown at them these days, more so than we ever had at 20. And when they're learning stuff, like, social media is a difficult ball game to kind of balance, I think, and that there's the pressures of that as well as pressures of other things going on around them. And anyway, we'll get to that, won't we? I think at some point.
Do you feel pressure to have a voice on social media now then?
God, there's a question. I was going to answer this. I was like, I kind of am what I am on social media. I think for me, the pressure at the moment is to realize what the value is in my social media and what the content is that I'm giving out. My value at the moment is, what I'm like. I'm quite a spiritualist. I say I don't label myself, but I guess I think in quite a way. And I do find there is a little bit of a pressure, but not. I'm learning to maybe have a voice more recently. So, and I think I don't do it for anyone else but me. So I think my social media at the minute has to change anyway. So I think what I'm doing at the minute is working out what people see value in my content and where they want me to go with it. Mm-hmm. So yes and no is that answer. I don't do it to follow everyone else. I do it because the timing is right for me to try and lift the game, I guess. Lift the game, is that the word? Up the game in it a little bit for my own sake, I think. Because I do think, as you know, I've got a young following, and I seem to be able to connect with them on a level. And I think for me, it's always been that way from magazines, that all the magazines I've ever worked for and the interns I've ever worked for always seem to kind of listen and understand. And I think I have a duty a little bit to be a little bit more vocal in things, but only in the things that are authentic to me, if that makes sense, in what I am anyway. But I'm learning how to do that at the minute. So yes and no. That was a bit diplomatic, wasn't it? A bit long-winded. Yeah. But yes, I think, yeah.
And you've obviously mentioned earlier that you started out in editorial. You worked for the likes of Company, Look, Grazia, and the Express. But you've also mentioned there that actually you work for Company, and for anybody who doesn't know, Company was an amazing monthly magazine at the time where Laura worked. And you mentioned that they kind of started pioneering the whole social media thing within the editorial space.
Yeah.
How do you feel that your career has changed over time?
So also I was going to say that we were ahead of our time, so we had a bit of an insight when we were there that I probably didn't step on that. I didn't step on the bandwagon with it at all. I was very late on. I mean, I was one of the last people to have a Twitter or Instagram, and even now I'm still a bit late to the party on it. But I would say that we were very much aware of because we used to work with bloggers and social media girls that are now massive. Like, I think in the Throw interned with us at one point. I've got her on a video, and she's huge now. But we were just a bit more open to it and realizing what social media was and all of that. And I think for me, it's organically grown in that sense at the time. I think, I'm going to be really honest, I think I kind of pivoted on that for a little bit, and then I've now stopped with it. So I'm always trying to find the next thing. So in terms of my career, I believe that it's opened doorways in certain aspects, but I don't actually believe that my career is actually flown because of it. I think because I'm very much the way, if your work is your work is your work, and actually people will hear of you word of mouth regardless of whether you're on social media or not. And I was very much a staunch person of like, well, I'm not going to put all my work on my Instagram, because if people know me, then they're going to know my work. But I've had to change my views on it a little bit just over the recent years, because I realised that stylists now have to be seen as a brand, as a whole thing, and that's the only thing people look at, isn't it? Instagram at the minute, and obviously LinkedIn and stuff. But that's the creative side, that's the visual side. They can see who you are and what you do. So I would say I'm maybe, dare I say, a little bit behind with it. I don't think I'm not behind, but for me, it's more like I need to find the next thing before everyone else. I've always been a bit like that. I don't think it's hindered my career, but I don't actually think it's advanced me. I think it's opened doorways for me to see other artists and other stylists and other creatives and other photographers, and I think it's amazing for that, because you can speak to someone over DM and arrange a shoot, or you can, you know, you can admire and other people inspire you, and it's an absolute open doorway for lots of things to happen over social media. But in terms of enhancing my career, I'm not sure it has in that way. I'm not really sure. I think other people will tell you otherwise, but I don't really view it like that. But I'm only really learning now that I need to probably move the times and make more of me as a brand. But I think I'm a brand anyway. I don't know. It's a very like question. Yeah. Did that answer it? I don't know.
Do you think that social media really inspires your work now then? Do you use it as a touch point to create kind of concepts for shoots?
Oh, yes and no. I would say I use my Instagram. Do you know what? I kind of never have. I think the people that inspire me on Instagram are more the spiritual side, if I'm honest. I do look at other stylists and photographers, and I love stuff that I see, and like things like Contributor magazine, which is like, it just gets in from all walks of life. Anybody can. It just seems that they are really creative, and I love that magazine for that. I've seen it grow as well, and I love stuff like that where they're like more unknown magazines, and they actually just, everybody kind of from all over the world, they get people in, and that's, for me, that's my inspiration as well. Like that's what you want, isn't it? It's about being creative and about, I think, yes and no again. But I get my, I don't know where I get my, it's anything. It can be someone having a conversation with someone and my mind will suddenly go bing, or it's culture, it's music, it's what's happening in the world with the planet and recycling, and you can get a shoot out of like recycling garments, or like seeing something that somebody else has done, and they've done it made out of recycle. I don't know, it could be anything you should be able to like flick a switch in your head, really, isn't it? I think you can take it from anywhere. I would say yes, it does, but it's not my only form of where I find stuff like that from as well. And I think you have to give yourself a limit on it as well, because sometimes it can be overused and your brain can get like, oh, I need a break from it. I don't know. Yeah.
I think sometimes some of the best ideas come when you're not really even thinking about it. Like you said,
exactly.
Like talking to your friends or just being like aware.
Yeah.
For me, like I very rarely just like sit. I don't think I ever really do it, like sit at my laptop and think, right, I've got to come up with a new idea now. It's always like you say, like talking to your friends, or I'll see something on Instagram that I think, oh, I'm going to save that later, and like, so my save on Instagram is like overflowing. My notes section, like on my, if I like watch something on TV, or you know, I'll always write things down, because I then kind of use it as a bit of a Bible when I come, even though I don't use it right then, I'll kind of note it down or screenshot it or whatever, and then I'll come back to it later on.
Same. I've got loads of notes in my book, and from different books I've got all over the place, and like, but yeah, I think when you're not doing something, you're in the midst of actually being in the moment doing something else, that's when the best things come to you anyway, because you're not overthinking it, you're just being, aren't you? That's my like, you're just, I absolutely agree, because I don't think I come up with a creative when you're forced to do it. Obviously it's different for when you're doing something for a commercial shoot where they've given you maybe a brief or something, and you need to come up with a mood board, or you know, somebody else, photographers, come up with a shoot and they want you to do clothes for it, and then it's just a collaboration, isn't it, between minds and all of that. But yeah, I think anything can inspire you at any point, and as long as you're writing it down or putting it in your notes or remembering it, you might wake up and have a dream and be like, oh, let's do that, you know. I don't know, I think I had a dream about cowboy boots, because this is one of my big things that I've had for years.
We both love a cowboy boot.
We do, because we were talking about this the other day. But you know what I found out? My friend's doing a she's doing a I keep calling it recycling. I'm terrible. See, I'm rubbish. What's the word for it? Upcycling. Well, she's doing this course for 4 weeks, and she was saying that grapes are the new leather. And I was like, no word of a lie, because I was like, oh, maybe I can make cowboy boots out of grapes. That could be my unique selling point. I don't know. I'm like, it's got me rolling. I'm like, oh, maybe I can do this cowboy boot. Yeah, grapes.
I'd be so interested to see how that actually works.
I know. Well, she's teaching us, because she's only doing it for 4 weeks. She's actually like a florist by her own admission, but she's obviously very creative, and she makes other things for not eBay. What's it called? Oh, my brain. What's that site everybody goes on?
Etsy, maybe.
Yes, Etsy. Sorry, guys. I'm rubbish today. Monday, I haven't had my coffee. Etsy, but she makes so much stuff. Like, and she's so creative. She's always doing something. But also, back on that as well, like you guys being stylists and stuff, anybody that's listening, whatever creative thing you're doing, you should always kind of just do the things you love. Because I was thinking about, there was a question in there, and I was like, yeah, the radio, like I mentioned earlier, is always something to me that I've always been interested in, music and DJing. So to me, dancing, DJing music was something I wanted to do because I love doing it. And I think as long as you're doing something you love, things will come to you out of that anyway, naturally. I'm much a believer in that. It's a side hustle, but it's actually something that I love doing, and it goes hand in hand, but it doesn't have to be like that. I just think when you're doing something you love, things automatically happen because you're in such a energy vibe with it. I'm not going to go too heavy on spiritual stuff, but you know what I mean, you're in the right frame of mind, aren't you? Do that later. That's a whole nother conversation that I probably should start somewhere.
We could do another one on spirituality.
Yeah. Oh God.
Do you think that inspires, your work, because you are known for like your kind of boho-y sort of style, personally, but also like you look at your Instagram, it is all kind of that kind of aesthetic. But do you think that the fact that you're interested in like this spirituality, do you think that feeds into your work as a stylist?
Oh, I don't know, because when you said to me, people see me as quite boho, that was my work, I'd never really thought about it before, because I think you think it's because we do it so easily and so automatically, don't we? We don't really think about what we're doing when we're doing it. We're very lucky, and I realise that we are very lucky in the fact that we just do it and we're good at it and stuff. But I don't know, maybe, but maybe not. I don't know if that has any bearing on my styling at all. I mean, correct me if you think that's, I don't know. Do
you think your styling's got a USP? Like, if you
unique selling point?
Yeah. If you were known for anything in terms of a stylist, like what
see, this is it. I always maintain that I don't think I have a unique selling point, but I will always try and get a fringe in somewhere or a cowboy boot. That's a joke, by the way. That is a joke. But I've had a few comments where like somebody will always know it's me because it's slightly quirky, but then I don't do it like I maintain that I'm quite different in all my shoots, but then if you look at my shoots, maybe they're not. But I would like to maintain that I don't know if you should have a unique selling point, because I don't. This is an argument that's just the test of time with me, because I was told like I don't know, when you've been with an agent, haven't you, before, and they've kind of said you need a unique selling point. Why would people go to you over somebody else? Or why when we've got you on our books as this and somebody else on our books as that? But I've always maintained, for me, I don't really think that as a stylist you should be able to do anything and everything. So I always try and maintain I don't think I have, apart from the fringe. And maybe I might start doing that from here on in and make that a thing. Seeing ideas just come to me now. I'm like,
Gotta be done. I don't know.
Can you spot me? I'm
Yeah.
gonna go spot
Can we identify Laura Martin?
Yeah, where's Wally, but where's the boot? Where's this?
I don't know, it's a really weird one, isn't it? Because some people say, oh, you should, be able to lend your hand to absolutely anything because that makes you competitive. But then at the same time, it's sometimes good to be known for something. I was full-time styling.
That's
I loved the idea of being known as like a high street stylist because I loved shopping on the high street. I had I'd always worked for high street magazines. So I got a kick out of making cheap stuff look expensive, basically.
Yeah,
and
same.
That was always my vibe. Whereas I never saw myself as like a high-end designer stylist because I think I didn't ever relate to that myself.
I
kind of always thought about, and not that I thought it was about me, I always just kind of thought, well, I like the idea of appealing to people like me who shop on the high street and they want to make things look expensive, and I think that fed into what I did. So it's
no, I agree with that because I think
do loads of different stuff, so it's really hard to know, isn't it?
It is, but I absolutely agree with you because everything should be inspirational, really. And I think I'm the same, really, because we've worked on the same magazines at different times, and I think I pride myself on making any high street look expensive, and I would pride myself on that. But I also think that there's such a hierarchical thing within magazines, and I'll say it out loud. I'll be quite vocal about it. I think there's quite a snobbery with some of the higher like high end magazines, and I think that some of them wouldn't even look at me previously because I've not worked here, or I've not sitted this person, or I've not done this, or I've not. And I think that needs to change. And I've said this for ages, but there's so much of the fashion industry that needs to change, and it shouldn't be about where or who you've assisted. It shouldn't be so political. It should just be, if you're good at your job, and it'd all be like this, wouldn't it? If you're good at your job, you should just be employed for being creative and good at your job, because people should be able to see that from all of your work. So I actually wholeheartedly agree with the statement of like what you said earlier with you inspire people, and if that's what you that's what rings true for you, then continue down that. But I also do think there's avenues that the things haven't been explored, and things should be able to do whatever they want really within it. And I think actually going back to social Instagram, I think that's allowed for that to start happening maybe as well, and people see stylists on Instagram that are not even known, and they love their aesthetic and they love what they do on there, and that's how they've got jobs through that. And it's opening it up into categories that fashion would never have been opened up to before. It was very elitist before. Is it elitist? Is that the right word? It was very, and I do believe there's still a little bit of that in the minute, but I do believe that things are slowly changing, but there's a whole lot that needs to change within the industry anyway. And I mean, it
is so good to see such a lot more diversity, but like you say, whether it's like different skin colors or like women,
women, men,
whatever, but it's so good to see like things opening up, and even things like men, like guys wearing makeup, and it's really inspiring to see. But like you say, it's a total, it's just baby steps, isn't it, that seems to be happening, and you think there's so much further to go.
I know, and it also all got to start from the top as well. It's all and we were having this I was having this discussion with a makeup artist that lives in my flats as well, and we were all saying it has to start with everybody. You can't just sit there and go, well, these people here are causing trouble, it's nothing to do with me. Everyone's a part of the industry, so we all need to be doing it, and it all starts from everybody, not just little to the top. The top people need to know what's going on their eyes and ears. They just don't seem to get involved in it, I think, sometimes because it's money, and it's I've just got a calendar update. Baby steps. They've got a long way to go, but at least it's moving.
It's a total shift that needs to take place massively.
And it's about bloody time as well. Sorry, it's bloody, but it's good. I just think everything is good, and it has to keep going the right way. But I do, at the minute, I don't really know. I mean, I feel bad for the beauty industry at the minute because of the whole Rona. We'll call it Rona today. and what's going on with it. And the industry as a whole, it is just a lot of things have had to move because of that. But I always think that things happen because they're meant to shift other things and to start movement. So that's my view on things. I never say anything's good or bad. I like to stay neutral, and then you always evolve and learn from something. Then that's a good thing, right?
Definitely. And taking it back to styling, you mentioned there that you've worked for some kind of like different publications, and you've created work and done shoots like Vogue Italia in Hunger.
Yeah.
Is the process like in terms of like planning a concept for a shoot? Like you obviously said that you look for lots of different, places for inspiration, and you kind of work with different photographers, and you mentioned a makeup artist there, but what's the process like in actually planning that shoot, like the concept of it?
Well, Vogue Italia was, do you know what that was done under? That was done in a week, the producing and planning for that, because it was a photographer that I never met. It was a woman photographer. I'll have to ace in that because women are just like bang, 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 let's get this done. Because normally I'm very much used to producing any shoot as well. You pick the photographer, you come up with the idea, you pick the makeup artist, and then it becomes a collaborative. So you add more ideas to the pot and they'll add more ideas. I'm very much a believer in it is a team effort. It's just the initial idea might come from me and I might pick a team, but it's always got to be a team thing on the day and what they want to add to it because it's their work as well. But as I say, Vogue Italia was done in less than a week. It was actually photographers kind of, because I've got a pool, she wanted to do a pool shoot for ages.
Going off now, she's got a pool, guys.
Oh, sorry guys, got a pool in Brixton. Anyone's welcome. So it was kind of from there really. We just wanted to do this like glamorous kind of, not, it was just, yeah, she came up with the initial idea and then we just kind of went on it and then it just evolved from there. But that kind of thing, we got models involved, but actually Vogue Italia was not paid for. Obviously none of us got paid. We did it because we wanted to do it, and that's kind of how most those shoots go. Sometimes you'll get a budget, sometimes you won't get a budget, but you kind of do it because you just want to make the most amazing creative thing out of it and you want to inspire, and it just keeps growing as an idea. So like she was from Germany. Nina was one of my favorite photographers actually, and yeah, I don't know, it just happened so quickly. I go and pull clothes, and it was poolside princess, so it was a bit vampy, a bit like not quite princess but off kilter princess, which is perfect for me because you know what I'm like, don't like to do anything too glam and too like, I like to be a bit quirky. Let's say it again, a bit weird. But it just turned, and then we had 3 models. We did have that was the thing. I was like, 3 models. I'm like, oh, can I do that in a week? Yeah, okay, I'm going to pull clothes for 3 models. And it just kind of inspired that I ended up doing like kind of matching colours in some things and then matching colours and not in others. And yeah, it was just it's very, when you're explaining it out loud, you have to go to appointments if you've not done assisting or styling before, how it works as a process. I do it really, you get a location, you get a photographer, you get a makeup artist, then you have to go and pull the clothes. So I've got obviously PRs and brands that I've built up relationships with, the things that I might have in my head that I might want to borrow, and depending on, I think it's a little bit harder now, I must say, because you might need commissioning letters, I think, at the moment. We didn't have a commissioning letter for that, so I was quite lucky with some of the stuff I pulled.
For anyone who doesn't know what a commissioning letter is, can you explain what a commissioning letter is?
A commissioning letter is from something from the editor to say that you are actually doing a shoot for this magazine, therefore you are responsible for the clothes, you are pulling it on behalf of the magazine, but it will be going in such and such. So it's basically a confirmation that you are shooting for a online mag or a printed mag, and that's their confirmation for you to be able to pull brands for them under their name. Did that explain it? Yeah. Because obviously I'm used to working at a magazine, so obviously never had to deal with that before coming freelance. So as a freelancer, you have to now have a commissioning letter most of the time, although some PRs that I've got as mates will continually let me borrow without sometimes having that, which is the relationship I've built over 10 years, I think. No, it's longer than that, isn't it? 40? I don't know how long I've been in it. How old am I? 11 years, 12 years. 21 again. I got told I was 31 the other day. I was like, I'll take that. Thank you very much. Anyway, so the process of that is then you get the commissioning letter. You will send that off to a PR or a brand and you go, can I come in and pull for such and such? And then you pick the clothes that you have in your head or you see, and it's normally new season, so you're always 6 months ahead normally, aren't you? So we would be pulling for spring summer 21 right now. They would start shooting with that, but it's a whole different ball game at the minute with Rona. So I think it's very much up to the minute, isn't it? See, that's the thing. But that's kind of the premise of it. You borrow clothes on the premise of you're going to do this for this. You explain your mood board. Sometimes you might have to be showing a mood board as well.
Mm-hmm.
But then on the other flip side, Vogue Italia was done after. So we did the whole shoot, and then we didn't actually know it was originally going to go into Vogue Italia. We just sent them it and they loved it. And yeah, you can get lucky. Probably should have made out that I'd actually done it properly with Vogue Italia. And not just got lucky with it.
How did you actually pitch it to them, though? Did you put it in an email, or did you?
You put the mood board in an email and pitch it with like who's the photographer, who's the makeup artist, the idea. They loved it because that is Vogue Italia. And I think Nina's done a couple of things for them since, so it does you know what I mean, things like that really do, like when you've got a relationship with then the magazine, then you can go on and do other things for them as well. So it's always, I just think it's good to work for variety, and I think that's what I kind of said earlier, that you shouldn't really pigeonhole yourself if you can help it, but I think you do get pigeonholed sometimes regardless of whether you want to or not, and I either or, it, you know, as long as you're creating and having fun with it, it doesn't really matter what you do in styling, I don't think, regardless of whether it's editorial, music people, social media people, commercial brands. As long as I maintain, as long as you're having fun and you're enjoying what you're doing and you want to do it, because it's a balance with our industry, isn't it? You can get paid for like, and this is the other thing that needs to change in the industry as well, that I think fashion has always been seen as, oh, you don't get paid very much, you're still doing things for free, you're still doing shoots for free. That doesn't happen in any other industry, so why is it still happening in our industry? Where's that come from and why? I know that, you know, where do these views come from? Sorry, I've gone off on a tangent again, but it's I just think it needs to change in that aspect, and I hope it does change.
I think there are certain laws that are coming into place now that saying that one of our students, when you did Carbon Live, the podcast, Emily, she's since launched for her final major project, and she's carried it on. She launched a magazine and an online platform called Fashion Intern, and it is kind of like an insight into interning.
Amazing.
I was talking to her and she was saying that actually there's a lot of debates that are going on in Parliament that are addressing the concept of, you know, interns and interns not being paid, and now the process is that if you are interning at a brand or a magazine or whatever, as an intern you have to shadow somebody, so you have to be shadowing someone all the time. They then give you a dedicated job with dedicated responsibilities, they should then be paying you. So it has to be really, really clear. And I think that there's like upsides and downsides to it both, really, because, you know, I interned and I didn't get paid for all of it. Like I think most of them I got travel expenses in London.
Same.
Some gave you a £5 for lunch, and you know, so it was really hard, and I didn't live in London, so I was, you know, having to, a bit like you, like worked, you know, at the weekend and worked in the evenings and stuff to get paid, and I pick up the odd freelance job, which was great, but you know, it's really, really tough. And I think it's even tougher for, you know, I had the benefit of being able to stay with my mum and dad, so even though I was paying £500 a month, something ridiculous, to get into town, I was living with my mum and dad rent free, so I didn't then have the cost of feeding myself or paying rent. And it's so difficult. It's great obviously if you live in London and you've got parents who can support you, but if you live up north or wherever, that, and obviously it's getting better because there's more companies that aren't just, it's not so London centric anymore, but it does mean that opportunities aren't there as much for if you can't get into London, or, you know, that.
Agreed. I'd absolutely agree. I think I remember having that conversation with Natalie Hartley actually years ago about, like, that you're all right if your parents can pay for you for a year to do something for free for a year. But that's what I meant with the hierarchical thing in magazines. I think there's been a lot of that, like when people can't afford to do what they're doing and they're actually good at their job, they're not gonna get the job because they can't do it for a year, and they can't manage to keep themselves afloat. Or I guess where there's a will, there's a way. You will do it, but it's not always that easy. And I think times have changed in terms of like speaking out about things, and also I think in our day we would have done it and we just get on with it because it was seen to be the thing to do, isn't it? Yeah. But now I think the next generation won't put up with that, and they're very much more vocal, and they like things to change, and they, you know, yes, there's upsides and bad sides to it. I just think
but at the same time, I think even for me it was really, really tough, and I was really, really broke, and it was really tough, but at the same time it kind of spurred me on because I knew that I really wanted to do it. If there was any ounce of doubt that I wanted to do it, I didn't want to do it, I wouldn't have carried on. But I knew you knew. I was like, I've got to make this work. I've got to, because I then had that work ethic. Yeah, absolutely. Then it worked out because I did work so hard, and you know, and it all came good. So there's but then, you know, I was working such long hours and working really, really hard. And well, I remember doing hours that you're in there till like 10 o'clock at night. I think I did a spurt like that in the magazine. And then there's that whole other question: are you organised enough? Are you using your time wisely? Yeah. It's just a lot to do. And I'm like, you want to be showing willing, don't you? And I think we've done it all. It's tenacious, isn't it? As a whole, like, it's a whole nother conversation, isn't it? Again, about that. But it does. It lends itself for further on down the line with who you are and how you deal with things in the actual business world or in the magazine world and editorial, in a work ethic vibe. I think you're right that you know what you want to do, but you also like don't give up on it, and you keep pushing. And there's a whole work ethic that comes out of it, isn't it, basically? And how you build it. Do you think there's a future for print editorial? I always say yes, but I don't know anymore. I always like to think there is. I'm that person. I would love to say there is, but I think it's more coffee shop books at the minute. But I do believe that I hope it will come back around, because I don't know. It's just, do people get bored of knowing what's coming out and being able to grab things off Instagram first thing, or like online? Do they not get bored of that? Do they want an element of surprise? Do they not want, you know, when we were magazines, and we used to wait for a magazine to come out, and you'd be like so excited for it to, you'd be a month early, but it won't be in the shops, and you'd be excited about it, wouldn't you? You're like, oh, I've got to go and find that when it comes out in the shop about a month later, and you're like, oh yeah, I got my hands on it. There's such a difference in doing that, rather. It's like a gratification thing, isn't it? It's like, yes, I've waited for this. I would like to say yes, but in the climate, maybe, because things are changing, and there's a whole nother thing about the fast fashion as well. And is it ethical? Is it this? Is it that? Are people just going to slow down in terms of what they want from shops and what they? It's all connected, isn't it? If you watched the Misguided documentary, do you know what? Somebody told me to watch this last week, and I need to watch it. Yeah, it's really good. Is it really good? Yeah, I've only watched about three episodes, I think. Oh, it's really interesting. It does like that in like total inside the whole process and of working at a fashion brand, and you know, it's similar to the In the Style one. I don't know if you watched that was on last year, and it shows the whole workings of it, but it did highlight some, like I saw some kind of opinion pieces going around about it, and they were slightly critical of it in a way, because they said it kind of highlighted fast fashion and it wasn't in such a good light. But it's definitely worth a watch for sure. Yeah, I'm going to watch that, because I've just watched is it The Social Distance? I kept falling asleep. Oh, I started you mentioned it to watch it, so I started watching it.
I know, but I tried to watch it last night and I fell asleep. That's because I get up at 6 a.m. every day. That's my excuse, and I'm getting old. But no, I need to look at that misguided thing. But also, there's always going to be a plus and a bad and a, I'm not going to say bad and a good light for fast fashion, isn't there? The consumers want it, don't they? So it's how do you make that? It's probably their duty to make it a bit more ethical, or how they run their business from it, or if they're, I think they're all kind of changing their business ethics, I think, hopefully.
Mm-hmm.
Because it was like that Stacey Dooley one. Did you see that Stacey Dooley one?
Yeah.
About how fashion is probably one of the third worst things for the planet, and that opened my eyes a lot with it as well, and just the industries themselves and factories and all of that. But you can't have that without the consumer, and the consumer wants it. So it's more of a question about how do you market correctly at the consumer and what they want, and educate the consumer. That's what I'm about, as in the US, as in unique selling points as well. How do you make something unique selling point, not just about fast fashion? And there's all of that to consider, isn't there? So I did write all of this stuff. I let roads down. I haven't said any of it.
Always good.
I am intelligent, I promise. Sometimes. Come out.
She is, guys. She
is. I promise. It might not sound like it.
You have done work for commercial clients such as Boux Avenue and Asos.
Yes.
How do you approach commercial work differently to editorial work? Do you think that you have to put a bit of a different hat on when you're working for
you do. That kind of comes to my point about client and consumer, because you're like Boux Avenue and Asos is a client, or Boohoo's a client, and they have a consumer that they need to keep satisfied. And if they're, the consumer sees them a certain way in a certain image, and it's about using that image and working with that. So working with that consumer's what they want to see out of that brand. So Boohoo might have a certain campaign they're doing, or like, and you've been called in because you are seen as like I think that's happened to me quite a few times actually, a younger generation thing. Again, they want you in to make it look a bit cool and a little bit this and a little bit that, and they're trying to educate their consumer, I guess, in something different, and they want your help in doing that. And it's a collaboration again. And also you have to think like, what do they want out of it, and what they're putting money into it. And it's definitely a working together thing. It's not necessarily, it is coming up with ideas, but they'll have an idea about what they want from it, and you're there to enhance that idea and evolve and grow that idea. And it is still a collaborative thing, but ultimately they're your client, and it's the consumer that you're listening to. It's not it's not your idea. It's a bigger picture in commercial, I would say.
How do you get to know the consumer though? Because even if you look at, a lot of the fast fashion brands, which on to an untrained eye, I guess they all look slightly different, like they all look the same, don't you? A lot of people say, well, Boohoo, Pretty Little Things, Guided, they're all the same, but they've all got their own kind of vibe and their own aesthetic. How do you go about getting to know those consumers, because you say there that you're thinking about the wider person and who's shopping there, and creating looks that are tailored towards the consumer.
And what I think it's just about why they're doing it, really, I think, or who that consumer is and why they're shopping there, and what are they getting out of it, and why is the question. I always say why, because you'll find out a dozen answers from the question why, because you get to know the insight of what drives them to that site, or what why they're there in the first place. And it's that whole thing about keeping them on the page. What keeps them with Boohoo? What keeps them a Pretty Little Thing? What is it that they're doing that keeps them there? And it's a bigger picture in terms of, it's not just their website, it's their whole social side of it as well, and how they market that. And for me, it's just like, it's research, I guess. It's research on those sorts of pages, and research talking to the in-house team, and And I do that anyway. I ask a lot of questions because I'm kind of interested, because I've come from that buying background. I know the process behind things. So for me, it's like it's all learning, isn't it? And they've got me in for a reason sometimes as well. Like I'm saying, they come to me because they see me as like always working with something they want to change a little bit. Did that answer that? Was that not enough?
Yeah. Were there any particular ways when you were working in buying that you got to know who your customer was?
Yeah, we'd have like meetings, and what would sell I can't remember what they're called, but they're oh god, see, I should know all this. Sell buys. So what would sell, you'd have a Monday morning meeting, and they have Monday morning meetings, obviously, what's been the most sell through, what's done this at this point. And actually when I was at Boux, they have their Monday morning meetings, but they also work on a Saturday, and they get feedback on Instagram. Obviously we didn't have Instagram back in the day when I was doing buying, but it would be through sell through and margin, what's done this at this point and why this customer on this day. So there's a whole, it's called a Bible, if I remember rightly. We would go by that Bible. Merchandising would produce a whole numbered Bible, and you would see how something had sold, what day, what week, all of that. And that's a merchandising role, which is a whole different facts and figures ball game. But that's somebody else you should probably get on, actually, a merchandiser, because it's quite interesting. I've got a friend who's a merchandiser. Yeah, that went way over my head when I used to be doing it. But yeah, there's Monday morning meetings where you get to know who that customer is, but not on a personal level. A personal level would be sending out things like marketing things to emails, all of that side. But that's marketing, and that's in-house. But I usually find out a customer through research and asking like colleagues and stuff, and actually asking in-house and asking questions at the time about what they're trying to do and why they're doing it and what the campaign's for. Yeah, is that enough? Did that make sense?
Definitely. And I think now, like, it's a lot easier to kind of connect with your consumer, because like you're saying, like, there wasn't Instagram or social media platforms around.
No, there wasn't. And they're happy to like write on when they're not happy about something.
And
like,
you can really ascertain like how your customer wants to feel, and why that, like you say, why they're shopping there. And I think how clothes make people feel and how they want to feel in clothes is such a massive factor now. And also, it's not just that you want the clothes to make them feel, but it's not just about selling clothes anymore. It is more about kind of what, like you were saying earlier, like how that brand is speaking to the customer and how they are using that platform, not just for buying clothes, but connecting with them.
Yeah. And I think the last one we did at Boux, thank you for that, by the way. That kind of says it all, because they had all women's shapes. It's empowering the curve, isn't it? That's just one example of underwear, but they've all been a little bit like that. And actually, we haven't really spoken about that today at all, because really, why do we do our jobs as a stylist? Why can we do our jobs as a stylist? It's to like uplift people, isn't it? I've always maintained that if I'm doing my job by making someone feel good about themselves in any shape, way or form, then I've done my job. And I know, like sometimes we work with models, but sometimes we work with real people. And I think as a stylist on set, you have to be that person. You are that person that can speak to everyone on set, but you're the person that you're making. Clothes can make someone feel so good about themselves, and that's ultimately what we're doing, isn't it?
It can make them feel rubbish, like you can swear blind. Like, I've worked with quite a lot of like personal styling clients, and you can swear blind to somebody that they've got the best boobs or the best arms or whatever, but if they don't feel it, then it's irrelevant, isn't it? So you can make somebody feel amazing in what they wear, and it's but also creating that kind of brand voice, isn't it? That actually, like working for Boux Avenue, it's actually creating a brand voice that says like, no, it's not just about like skinny, slim girls, but about all shapes and sizes.
Yeah, and I can't tell you on that. So one of the first shoots we did with them was like that. I mean, they're all young girls. They're all like 20 or 19. And actually, when you think about what they're doing, none of them had ever done a real, like some of them had, I think, but like an actual photo shoot in their underwear. I mean,
They were all largely
hats off to them. We haven't done it.
They were like influencers, weren't they?
Yeah. There's quite a few influences and different rankings, and I would say rankings, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
That's awful. Did I just say that? I meant different amounts of followers. That's terrible. Sorry, guys. Rankings. I just meant figures, but like, but also they've never done anything like that before, and for them to just pose in their underwear like that, it's just like hats off to you guys, because I couldn't do that in front of, you know what I mean. I'm just saying what I see. And it's blooming amazing when they do things like that, and fair play to them, and they do look amazing, and it's instilling that kind of on the inside. And I think a lot, actually coming back from that shoot as well, was like a lot of the girls also have a good, they have a lot to put up with, I think, in some instances where people just, you know, Instagram is good and it's bad in so many ways, because they do have a lot of people that just seem to think that they write whatever they want and can't say a nice thing maybe, but you know, and they have someone maybe see that every day, or I don't know, it's a whole different mindset with Instagram as well. You have to take it with a pinch of salt, I think, and don't take it too seriously in that aspect. I think I've crossed to another question maybe you're going to ask me later about mental health and stuff, but sorry, I've gone into it already. But yeah, it's yeah, I can't remember what my point was, but you know what I'm saying. It was about mental health, and it's I think you have to be quite strong-willed to be able to do Instagram as a full-time job as well, because you know, and it's people like that actually that inspired me. There's people that I see every day that actually use their voice, and they've got massive following, and they actually don't just post pictures of themselves. I think also that they inspire people through their words, through their memes, and through all of that kind of side. It has to be everything. And I'm just, a lot of those girls are 20, and they're you know, at that age, what were we doing? We were going out and partying. We weren't even thinking about Instagram or anything like that, but they do have a responsibility. So therefore I think I'm learning from them in that sense, that you can, I think Instagram allows you to say what you want, but you just have to you need to be, I always say this, a bit of detached from it at the same time. You can't take it too seriously, but also I'm very much like that anyway. I think that's why my Instagram needs work at the minute, because I've just not done anything with it apart from stories. Sorry, I went off on a tangent there, but also I've got a question. Do you think, also a question to the girls that may be listening to this, do we think that I think stories are a totally different audience to the posts on there?
Yeah, people engage with stories much differently than they do on the main post, for sure.
Yeah. And what is holding them on stories, because it's quick and easy and they can just flick through it. But I did see a meme that said, why are you putting so much emphasis on stories? They might just be sitting on the loo board. Made me think. Anyway, that's the whole
So going back to your work that you're talking about there, you're talking about shooting for Boux Avenue. You got that job as a result of being freelance, but how do you go about kind of creating contacts and securing freelance work?
I will send emails and any updated work that I've done to certain brands that I maybe want to work with, and anything that I find that I haven't worked with before and I would like to kind of see what there is available in terms of how to work together, because it's not just always about styling, but how I can help them as well in terms of like brand direction and stuff, because I think that's quite important. And yeah, it's just like kind of reaching out, doing emails, updating people with what you've done, and through DMs as well. I said that earlier as well. Through Instagram, you might reach out to a brand that's up and coming, and it's not always about money. It's being like, I think you have to be quite authentic in who you want to work with and stuff. And yeah, otherwise I wouldn't work for a brand unless it didn't resonate with me, I think. And I do that through Instagram and through people that I've known for years as well, and that they move around, and Yeah, I send emails, updated work. I don't know. It's just always daily communication, isn't it? I mean, I don't know how you do it as well. It's through word of mouth. It's oh, I was chatting to this person. You might like this person, and yeah, it's just keeping yourself in the industry as well, and going on press meetings and appointments, and maintaining that. I guess it's like a whole nother. Well, it's a whole nother game, isn't it?
It is really hard, and being in freelance there's so many freelancers now that actually it is so competitive to be freelance. So part of it is keeping your communication up all the time and meeting with people and saying yes to opportunities, I think, because you just never know.
Yeah, you never know
where it's going to end up, or where these
Absolutely.
people go, or they might shift around to a different job or meet somebody else and talk to you. So it's like, and you've just got to be nice to everybody, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. You do. Actually, I learned from you here. Yeah. That's what I always maintain. She's in my grateful list, everybody, because Hannah has been the most amazing person in this industry. One of them in this industry for me. I have to say that. No, I do. I wholeheartedly say that. Like, yeah.
Really kind.
But I think it's not, everybody has to help each other. And I think that sometimes fashion can be seen as it's such a bitchy environment, and actually it isn't. We're all there to help each other, and it should be like that. And there's a lot of women in the industry, so it should be there's something for everyone. It's a lot of freelance people out there, but everybody is different, and everybody's got a different skill set, and it just should be everybody. There is something for everyone. I do believe that.
What do you think the biggest misconception about the fashion industry is? My favourite question. I ask it to everybody.
What's your answer?
Say that again.
What would you say?
What would I say? Hey, I'm the interviewee.
I know, but I like to deter the question.
I think that I would say that it all looks really glamorous.
And it isn't.
It's not at all. And I think you don't realise how hard people work and how small the industry is.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like, even though it is like really competitive, but there's always somebody that knows somebody else, and the name gets bandied around a lot. It looks glamorous. But
I agree with that. And also everybody thinks you're a designer when you say what your job is. Or, oh, can you dress me, please?
Yeah. Oh, what should I wear? I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that is probably the biggest one, isn't it? That everybody thinks it's really glamorous because you spend your life at parties, or you spend your life being gifted, or you don't do much. We don't have a brain. But I think there's a massive misconception that actually we do work hard, because the shoot doesn't come together in just one day. You do the prep before, you do the prep after. You're still doing stuff in between. Agreed. And there is that whole thing that fashion people always wear black. I mean I do, but
no.
It's not true.
I would just wear white t-shirts. I think I just get so flooded with clothes and fashion and trends. Actually, I just like to wear stuff that's really simple. I think there's a misconception that people in fashion always go shopping. I think that's not.
Oh my word, we don't, do we? I hate shopping.
I
don't have to be a time and a place for it. If I'm in the mood, I'll do it. But also, and there's a misconception that we always wear designer, clobber. No, we don't. Like, I'm a Zara fan or a Topshop fan, but like probably Zara is probably where I spend most of my wardrobe money. I'm like, I mean, I might have the odd designer bag. Actually, no, I don't have any. I have one or two, which have never been used because I'm too scared to use them.
Which is not right. My mum would
no, I shouldn't
never
say
say
that,
this is the best. You should wear your nice stuff to the club.
Yeah, but yeah, there's so many misconceptions about fashion. But I think kind of like that one is one of the ones glamorous. We always wear, like, I don't know, we're just not very nice people. I think people don't. I think there is that still a one? I do think people think we're a bit of a. I said bitch earlier, so I'm going to say it earlier. Bitch. Too late. Sorry, guys. Terrible. but we're all pretty, I think we're all pretty grounded, aren't we? I think you, aren't we? I think we've all done the same things at different points in our careers. So we understand each other a lot. But that massive one about being glamorous, it couldn't be further from the truth, could it?
Yeah, usually like running around sweating.
No, right? And doing the hours. We work silly hours though. We do work silly hours still, although maybe not so much anymore. But
well, when you're a fashion lecturer, you do a bit of the hours.
I
know. So
don't
you
know how you
recently, talking about hours, like you've recently branched out to do radio, and you've got your own radio show.
Yes, please follow me and listen.
Okay, give us a plug then.
Well, it's a local radio station, guys, and I play like house music, soulful house, bit of Ibiza vibes, bit of anything goes really, but it's just stuff I like. So it's more like soulful disco house. It's a local radio station, volunteer, and there's a few new presenters starting, but I just love it on a Friday night, 8 till 10.
What's it called?
Love the Beat Radio. We are on FM very shortly, guys.
Exciting.
You can follow us on Instagram. We need some more followers. But you can listen on radio app, TuneIn app, and the Virgin app. But we are on FM soon, so I don't know when he's sorting that out. When he's got a minute. But yes, sorry, I interrupted you. What was the question surrounding radio?
Sorry. Do you think it's important to have a side hustle?
Yes, but I think it's important to do, I said it, but I touched on it earlier about do the stuff that you love. For me, music was always kind of like music and fashion were always my number one things that I love doing. I do think it's important because it keeps you grounded and it keeps you, it sparks off other ideas, it sparks off all sorts. And I think always being so preoccupied in your main theme of work, like fashion or whatever you're doing in the industry or whatever industry you're doing, I just think it takes away the stress of stuff as well and the pressure that you put yourselves under. And I think for me it was just a natural thing because I just love dancing. Like anyone that knows you knows me, knows you, I know you, knows that I love dancing. So for me it was
Dances
just
like a demon, guys.
Apparently that's on my Twitter. Is that still on there? I haven't used Twitter for ages. I'm terrible.
It looks like a doll, dances like a diva.
Oh my word. Oh my, shocking. I need to change that. Oh my word. I am so cheesy. That's 12. I had my Twitter account and I looked at it since. Yeah, dance. Oh my word. But it's true.
Embarrassed you now, but it's true.
It is true. So for me, it was, I just think it's important to keep your mind open, learn new stuff. And also in Rona, nobody knows this, I was doing life coaching. I did, I signed up to do psychology and life coaching because there's stuff I'm interested in and I've always been interested in the brain. So I think any kind of side hustle, anything that you're interested in, you should just do it because it keeps your mind activated, it keeps you open, it keeps you opportunities are there all over in whatever industry you're doing, and side hustles can turn into main hustles, they can remain side hustles as a way of escapism for some people. I just think you should just do the stuff you love. I don't know, it's just it's really important.
Well, that's the philosophy to live by, isn't it? Just do stuff you love all the time,
whatever it is. Well, unless let's make sure it's legal.
Yeah.
Or not. I don't know. No.
Well, thank you very much for joining us today. I really, really appreciate it. It's such an interesting chat, and I find that when I speak to everybody on like these different, everybody's got like a different route, and so it's so nice to get like a different perspective from lots of different people. So thank you very much. Would you like to just give us a little plug for your Instagram account?
Yeah, it's Marty Stylist, guys. And also, actually just knocking into that, does anybody want to give me a DJ name? Because I did my first live IG the other day and somebody asked me, she was
she's really good.
Yeah, Athena, actually.
Oh yeah.
She said, what's your DJ name? And I went, I haven't really thought about that. I don't know if it's classed as DJing yet, but I said, do I need one? And I'm like, can I just use my stylist name? And I'm like, she's like, and I'm like, do I need one?
Yeah, but you just change it to Marty DJs instead of, then you'll have like Marty Stylist, Marty DJs.
Marty DJs. But we'd stick at Marty. Do we? Yeah. Most people don't actually know my real name. They'll call me Marty a lot of the times. So we'll just keep that stum. But yeah, it's Marty Stylist on Instagram, guys. Thank you very much.
Thanks so much for joining us again. And I'm sure that, you know, if anybody's got any questions on anything to do with fashion to DJing to mental health, spirituality, and also fringed cowboy boots,
yes,
then
I'm
more than willing to answer.
Maybe I need to do some more IGs like this as well, like a podcast. Oh, we've got podcast facilities at our radio station as well. So if anybody actually wants to start a podcast, or if anybody wants to do one with me, Hannah, we should do one. Yeah. But yeah, if anybody's got any questions, just please ask. I need to probably do more of those on my stories, actually, because I'm a bit rubbish at doing that. But thank you very much. It's been. I hope everybody's enjoyed it.
I have, for one.
Me too.
All right. Thank you so much, and we'll speak to you soon.
Take care.
Bye.